Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.
From the shadow she calls.
Hi, this is Will Your Werewolf. This particular episode is not really about me being a werewolf, it's more to do with the art I create from my werewolf self. Working with a pro. No blood is in the air as I move from my latest kill. She was just some random sex worker, another woman of the night. I'd smelt the rank nature of her as I walked my way down that street of broken dreams. Each person, man, woman, or whatever they were, was on this street for one reason: to sell themselves as a tool for the intimacy that the lost and forlorn and the broke can't get in any other way. Everyone needs certain things in their lives: oxygen, water, food, shelter, Wi-Fi. Life cannot be led without these things, but people have other needs. Well, most do. Most have a burning requirement for intimacy with others, the touch of another being, the gentle caress of the lover, or maybe not the gentle caress, perhaps just to bang. This pitiful shit-strewn road held those at the bottom of this pile of need, people who would give you that intimacy for not a lot of anything. Each had a broken and confused soul. All were destroyed at some point in their pitiful lives and made to do things that they could for the next meal or fix. Mostly fix. This was art in itself wandering down here. There were 100 different stories of horror and heartlessness, 100 wrong paths that had been taken. I would love to listen to the stories of these people, the wrong turn that any of them could not have taken at any point, that one moment that changed their paths forever. When you listen to these people, if you still walk away thinking that life has a way to sort itself out, or that karma exists, then you, my friend, are a bigger fool than all of us. I smelt her. I could smell the soul on the very edge of the precipice. She was at the end of it all. She was broken, yes. I could savor it. She lived because she did not even have the world to take her own life. She only had one thought. Where on earth was she going to get her next fix? She was rotting. I could smell it. She was rotting in her head and her limbs. The veins that she needed to give herself the next needle strike had collapsed, and it meant that the blood flow to her extremities was not what it should be. The tissue was dying, and she would soon rot to death, literally. I needed to see this one naked and admire what the bitch nature had done to her. I wanted to see the necrosis slowly work its way through the bloodstream. I wanted to see the zombie, the actual living dead as it went through its last stages of life. I wanted to see how hard she would hang on to life. I was going to get it and take it home to be part of my art installation. I had her box ready and the cameras set up, or maybe a different art form tonight. I hadn't yet decided. I would hear her story, then I would let this miserable creature make her own choice. This worst grade female heroine would get a good grade heroine for her last moments. I would take great pleasure in her death or her life, and it would be her choice. She stank. She did. And I found her. A small, forlorn creature leaning on a wall, a burning cigarette in her hand, and emptiness in her eyes. Her cheeks were sunk deep into her skull, her eyes were bulbous, and their centre were dark pits. She was so beautiful. She did not notice me for a long period of time as I stood in front of her. She was somewhere else in her head. I needed desperately to know where. "Speed jive for a tenner, gov," she drooled. So sexy, no eye contact. "Full service for 20. She stopped talking as her eyes met mine. The recognition for a moment flashed and I saw it. She saw me as what I was. Her drug-befuddled mind had a moment of recognition, and she saw what I offered her. And she did not flinch away. At that moment, I saw her resolution. She wanted this. I reached a hand to her, and she grasped it. And at that moment, she smiled. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you." I escorted the creature back to my Porsche parked on the corner. I held her hand and steadied her as she waddled a little in her stride as she went. At the car, I opened the door and helped her inside. All through this, she did not take her eyes off mine. She knew it was over, and that I would be the one who would be releasing her from this pain if she wished. Fen, my posse, was laid in the back of the car. He was just along for a ride this evening and would not take part in this work tonight. For those who get disappointed that I'm not busting out as a werewolf all the time, you have to remember that it's hard to hide being a werewolf if you spend a lot of your time as a werewolf in public. I walked around to the driver's side and got in. She sat staring at her dirty hands, holding a small handbag as though it was worth millions of pounds. Her body language was as closed as her head and heart were. I pushed the button to start. She didn't even ask me where we were going. She didn't care. She had no self-value, so why care? I put on some music as we drove. A little bit of Tori Amos seemed appropriate. She just sat in silence. "Are you warm enough?" I asked her. Her head shot in my direction. "What?" "I wondered if you're warm enough." "Alright, what is going on, mister? I needs the money for Frankie. He hurts me if I doesn't pay him." I smiled and reached into my top pocket to take out a bundle of notes, which I offered her. She looked at the money and smiled. I nodded my approval for her to take it. She snatched it and it disappeared into her little clutch bag, followed by her gum. She then carefully closed the bag, which she even more carefully planted at her feet. Once the bag was safe, she pushed her hair behind her ears and took a scrunchie from her wrist to pull her hair back and put it in a rough knot. She took her seatbelt off, turned her body towards mine and reached a hand down towards my crotch, searching for the zip there. I gently removed her hand and said, "No." The girl was confused. She just sat there, eyes down and not knowing what to do. The basic program that she'd been running so long was broken. She just stopped functioning with this glitch that had come up. The automated routine that she had in her head to protect herself behind all those barriers was stopped. She would have to bring herself out of those automatic routines to try and comprehend her next steps. The little heart in the emaciated chest quickened as she actually felt something. That thing was confusion. She knew how this normally went. You got paid. You got fucked. You got abused. Then repeat. "What is it you want me to do for you, mister?" she asked with resignation in her tone. This beautiful, indolent creature had obviously no self-care and would do whatever to get her next fix. "I was a good girl," she said. "Don't hurt me, will you, mister?" she asked. I shook my head and told her I wouldn't hurt her. She looked up at me. I smiled and nodded towards the glove compartment of the car. She bit her lip before deciding to see what was in there. On opening the little door with shaking hands, she found a little golden box wrapped with a red ribbon in front of her. She hesitated on seeing it and looked at me. "It's yours," I said. Please open it. She now scrambled for it. She was human once more, light in her eyes showing hope. I despise hope. She opened the box carefully. She undid the ribbon with great care and was smoothing it out and enjoying just the simple ribbon removal. Maybe sweet memories were being resurrected in that brain of hers. She looked at me again when she saw its contents. It's yours. You can use it, or you can come with me and I will get you clean and take care of you to make you well. That is the highest quality smack that you will ever take. Pharmaceutical grade heaven in a piss-coloured liquid form. I laughed. This is art in its purest form I'm doing here. She was given a choice to change her life or continue it. The life she hated could be behind her. I promise you, I'll not be horrible in any way. I will pay for you to go to the finest clinic and get clean. I passed her a pamphlet from the Priory group. Look inside. She stared at the cover for a while, and slowly with shaking hands she turned the page. That there is a fully paid treatment plan in London's finest centre. It's open-ended, so it will be for as long as you need until you are clean and cured. You will get all the support the private medical sector can give you to get clean. Underneath that is a cheque for £300,000, signed and in the hands of a law firm which is there. I pointed to the letter. That's to be given to you once you're clean, a start to a new life. After this brief conversation, I just drove on in the silence. I couldn't imagine what was going through her brain at this point, but I could sense the massive conflicts going through the creature next to me. Maybe she imagined 100 happy futures with her living an everyday clean life, maybe meeting someone who cares, someone who could love her and be there for her. Maybe there would be children in the future. She may have always wanted them. Who the fuck knew? But I was giving her the opportunity to make the right decision. Drugs and death, or life, hard work and freedom. She started snivelling and crying. The intensity of the sobs and the heartbreak intensified until she was screaming and actually beating the walls of the vehicle. Delicious. I was soaking in this abandoned emotion. I sensed the agony and the pain in her soul. It was inspiring and amazing to behold. You look at the Mona Lisa and say it's beautiful artwork. No. This sensing of emotions is the most beautiful thing that can be done. My art palette was the human psyche. I could live on these emotional meals alone. This was like oxygen to me. Eventually it ran out. She ran out of that emotional energy. She was weakened from her lifestyle, and the beast that rallied inside her was done. She slumped into her seat, and she pushed the box away and went still. "What's your name?" I asked her. "Becca," she told me after a long pause. "Well, Becca, I'm going back to the street on which we met unless you tell me otherwise. Make the choice, or I kick you from this car back on that street with neither the drugs nor your future life. You have 10 minutes to make a choice. Once there, no choice. If you make the decision to live, I will deliver you to the clinic. I will drop you there tonight, right at the front door." She turned and looked at me. Her eyes were horror-filled and beautiful. This was beyond any torture I could do to anyone physically. This was blissful and barbaric and art in its highest form. So, what do you choose, Becca? Hurry now. Google Maps are saying 7 minutes, and I've other people to do tonight. "Why?" she asked. "Why what?" I asked. Why the choice? she whispered, hinting at a hidden and unknown intellect buried deep in that zombie. Because I want to see what you're gonna do. You're sick, mister. I agree, I shrugged, thinking how sick I must be if told so by the cheapest of drug-addled whores. I can't imagine what she'd done or been through to put her in this career. To tell me I was sick was such a compliment from this one. So, what's the choice, Becca? She went silent and still. Then I could feel she had made the decision. She reached for her bag and pulled out a length of rubber elastic from it. She rolled up her dirty denim jacket sleeve and tightened it around the base of her bicep. Ah, fucking shit, I said, disappointment in my voice as I hit the dashboard. Told you, came Fenn's telepathic retort from the back seat. Her next few moments were spent searching for a vein amongst all the mess that had once been her forearm and elbow. Eventually she found one and hesitated while looking at the syringe. Come on, Becca, it's your last chance. I hope you make the right one for you. Hey! She made her decision, Will, came into my head from the angry wolf soul relaxing in the back seat. She burst into tears and cried, which was so disappointing. She reached for the heroin, then snatched back her hand, reached again and touched the vessel containing the liquid love. She had now definitely made the decision. She took it and tightened the elastic with her teeth. She removed the cap from the needle, again with expert and practiced dexterity, and pushed the needle into her vein. Her thumb compressed the plunger, and she sat back and sighed as her body relaxed, and she let herself go. No, I said as tears welled in my eyes. She decided she was going to continue on her chosen road. Well, she wasn't, because that was a massive overdose that she would not wake up from. It would rob her of reality. It would slow her breathing and her heart as it anaesthetized her, bringing her drug-induced comfort and death. So she'd made that choice. And it was a beautiful choice. Fenn was now giggling in the back seat. Told yous, always the same. Gratification now for humble humies. Tori began these precious things as her next song, as I listened with my heightened senses for that moment, that last breath. She slowed, and finally the air stopped its life-giving movement into and out of that ravaged body. She finally gave a long sigh and was gone. I completed the song and my journey back to where I'd found her, a street of more fallen angels, all doing what they needed to survive. It was now raining, which meant the street's denizens were hid away. I found a quiet spot and stopped the car. Going around to the passenger side, I opened it to remove what was now an empty, whorish husk. I dropped her into the gutter filled with what I could roughly call water running by the curb, a perfect burial for the end of this art piece. She soon became just another bit of flotsam and detritus in the shit stream. Nothing important. I stood over her for a short time. I wasn't praying or having a spiritual thought towards her. I did it just to say my goodbyes. I'd already forgotten her name. Whoever she had made the choice in this case, and for her it may have been the right one. I got back in the car. 5-0, mate. 5-0. When you's giving up? Fenn asked. One more, Fenn, one more. Fucking wolf soul ruin any art form.
Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.